All right. What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday, almost 8 a.m., October 5th. Lots to talk about today. First thing that we're going to talk about today is Bitcoin from the 15-minute going up higher time frames, 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, and we're going to talk about monthly and quarterly today because there's very interesting stuff that's happening on the higher time frames that maybe most other people are missing. The reason why we look at Bitcoin from the smaller time frames to the larger time frames is because it helps us build a bigger picture. Because the smaller time frames eventually flow into the larger time frames, right? And as traders, most of us are generally trading on anything less than a weekly. Some of us trade, 5 minute or 15 minute, which personally I don't and I don't recommend. But if you do, right, you also still want to be paying attention to the higher time frames because what the higher time frames gives you is it helps you understand even if you're scalping on say the 5 minute or 15 minute, are you facing daily or weekly resistance levels, which maybe the 5 minute or 15 minute may not be able to break through. And in fact, it might actually give you edge once you get into the higher time frame understanding of levels. This way you do not commit mistakes based simply on the 5 minute, 15 minute. You get the bigger picture of what's happening at price at large. So we can talk about Bitcoin. We can talk about things happening within the DeFi space. We could talk about this whole BitMEX CTO arrest, Trump getting coronavirus, what that means for the markets. We could also look at trading like heat map and um, you know cumulative volume delta, all kinds of stuff on the L2 data. And L2 data is basically order book data, what you could see on the footprint map of Bitcoin or crypto in general. And the footprints help us understand where exactly are people positioned, meaning the bigger players who buying with 10, 50, $100 million or multiple walls of $10 million. Where exactly are they finding value in buying up Bitcoin or selling Bitcoin? And that gives us a good picture. Um, when we look at where exactly the big players position and how we can position ourselves according to them. Okay. And then we could talk about altcoins, of course, some of the DeFi coins, NFT coins, and I'll give you guys a broader perspective of exactly what I'm seeing in the altcoin market, how we can benefit from the movements of Bitcoin, as well as the altcoin markets. Okay, let's get started. All right. So first things first, I'm going to start off, like I said, small time frame analysis on Bitcoin. Okay. So I'm opening with the 15-minute because on the 15-minute, we see a few interesting things happening already. First things first, of course, yesterday, as soon as the daily opened, the weekly opened, we made a nice pop up towards the R1. As you can see, we found support at the pivot right here. And again, now we're pretty much back above, the pivot and maybe trying to reach back towards that R1 again. Okay. From the volume standpoint, and the RSI standpoint, there's not a whole lot happening. Again, here's the volume, right? Very, very dismal. Okay. And this is something that I've noted in Bitcoin over the last several weeks, which is, very, very little volume. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to look at different exchanges too, because remember, BitMEX had a very critical event happen, which was, their CTO got arrested. And of course, BitMEX is under way more scrutiny by the FBI and I think a host of other U.S. regulatory agencies. So we're going to look at different exchanges to help give us a more clearer picture. Okay. Here's what happened right after BitMEX got charged. 45,000 Bitcoin have been pulled from the exchange. According to the Glassnode data, BitMEX's Bitcoin balance has now dropped to 120,000 Bitcoin. That's a decrease of 27%. Now, it doesn't matter if you think that this is still a lot. The point is that the news definitely shook out some big players out of BitMEX, or BitMEX itself is trying to de-risk and move crypto off their exchange. In any case, it's not a good sign. So then what happened after that? Well, after they saw the largest drop, where it was 44,000 Bitcoin being withdrawn from the exchanges, the largest net flow observed to date, around 30% of those funds were actually transferred to Gemini and Binance in equal amounts. So if the Bitcoin got moved over here to these exchanges, the question is, why did it go to these exchanges, right? Because it's possible that they could have just moved it to another cold wallet, or they could have moved it, I don't know, to some other OTC deal, or something else really. But the fact that they moved it to another exchange makes me realize maybe this kind of Bitcoin is something that could cause sell pressure. Maybe people are willing to sell this Bitcoin. Maybe this was actual, people generally who trade on BitMEX, or they're seeing something in the market that we're not, which is, who knows, maybe this CFTC news and this arrest news is going to be a little bit more impactful. And then that Bitcoin that just got moved might start being sold on these exchanges. So you want to be paying attention to these exchanges right here of how Bitcoin starts selling off. Okay, because that will give you an indication as per volume, as per price analysis from these exchanges, if there's large net, selling happening. All right. Bitcoin open interest in perpetual future contracts on BitMEX also saw a significant decline as well. That makes sense because probably people closed out their positions, and of course, you then see that big open interest drop, right? So it decreased by almost 24%, which is a big drop from 590 million to 450 million dollars. Okay. So all this information helps us get a clear picture, first of all, of price, not only in the context of what's happening on BitMEX, but just overall, right? Because here's the thing. Even if it's one exchange, the crypto ecosystem at large, okay, they're all still relatively connected, right? Bitcoin is Bitcoin, whether it's on Gemini or BitMEX or Bybit or anything, right? So when Bitcoin gets sold in large swaths or large amounts on one exchange, it's going to start impacting the other exchanges too. Okay, that's just how it is. So if we start paying attention to Gemini and Binance for the coming days, when we start seeing those clues of price potentially selling off, well, then something is wrong. That means price might start heading lower. Now, my take on the market is that, first of all, I've mentioned from a daily standpoint what I expect for Bitcoin, which is for the several weeks that we have going into election time, I don't see any reason why we can't chop around these areas, which is the high of 11.1 to 11.3 and the low of between 9,800 and 10,000. Okay, this is really the range that I personally see us chopping in and around. All right, the other thing that I've been talking about for several weeks from the daily standpoint is this 50 moving average, which you see in the red right there, and the 128 moving average. Now, I've stated before that usually, historically over the last year or so, whenever we've smashed right through the 50 moving average like this, like we did right here in this area, let me actually mark that out for y'all right there, right? And we broke right through that moving average, and then we came back and found support on the 128 moving average, and then we start to bounce back up towards the 50 again. Once we start seeing that rejection, okay, chances are higher that we start breaking down further and further. But again, we have this 128 moving average still supporting us. If we start to break that one, okay, I think there's a pretty high possibility that we start heading down further and further. But as you can see, we've now put in higher lows as per the 128 moving average, and the current 128 moving average is somewhere around $10,350 or so. All right. So I think that's our big support right now. 10,350, somewhere around that area, as per this moving average. Horizontal supports, we have a bunch. We have this, 10,328, 10,250. This is support area where price bounced once, twice, took off. So the way I'm looking at price action right now is, we have the S1 right around 10,375. We have the other support right here, 10,328. I think there's a high chance that we come back towards this area and potentially bounce. Okay. And so if we come back to this area and we potentially bounce, I probably figure maybe it's going to be something like this, break back towards the 10,584 level, which is a key horizontal SR level that goes back to October 2019. Let me show you guys that real quick. Okay. So pay attention to this 10,584 level, right there. And let me actually make that a different color so it's easier for y'all to see. Let's make it slightly bigger. And let's make it maybe blue. Okay, here's how we can see that. Oh, crap, I have so many other blue markers. Let me do this. Let me do this here. Let's make it yellow. Let's see if there's any yellow markers. All right. So let's go back to daily. So here's that yellow marker, right? As you can see, 10,584. Okay. So we pull back this 10,584 way the heck from back here, October 2019. Technically, you can actually even pull it back way over here in September 2019 before we rolled over and dumped, right? And just so y'all know, when we were back here, all the way from August to September, our community, we had been calling for this drop because of some volume analysis, some technical analysis that we had done. Just the same way we're seeing the moving average crossover, like I just showed you right here. We saw the same thing. We saw the same thing happening back here. Okay, so I'm seeing the same clues right now, and I'm thinking, why is it that people are not seeing this? Well, sometimes people just want to ignore those signs, right? And that's just how humans are. We don't want to look at the more simpler clues that the market is showing us. We try to overcomplicate things, and we try to look deeper and deeper when in fact all you really need to do is look at something that's literally hitting you in the face and saying, hey, we're kind of hovering around this key SR level. If we start breaking this key SR level or this 128 moving average, it might be a pretty sharp drop down. Of course, I know we have pretty strong support right here, but again, if this support starts giving out, and let's just say the buyers start getting a little bit more scared, or they think that, maybe the support here is not going to hold, the bigger players are just going to pull their walls, okay? And they're going to let go all the support from here, and we'll just slice straight down towards 9,000, 9,200, somewhere along those lines, okay? And that happens pretty swiftly. Now, you guys have seen over and over again that Bitcoin has the propensity to drop and make $1,000 drop candles. Obviously back here we had that black swan event. Bitcoin went from a high of 8,000 down all the way to 3,600 on some exchanges, right? So don't think that we are immune to such things again, because it can very well happen. Okay, so this is why we need to be careful and position ourselves. Now, in the advantage side of our community, I've been telling people that in this chop area, okay, there's not a whole lot to be understood about Bitcoin. If you're going to scalp, the best ways to scalp, in my opinion, or maybe internal movements on the 5-15 minute. Let me see, where were we? Let's see where we were. Yeah, I don't think I stated anything for 5 or 15 minutes for the last several days. Maybe back here. Yeah, I think back here. So I stated that from here, the only trade to take was from here long back towards 10,800. So that would have been $150 movement or so, but that's really it, right? Other than that, I've not had any scalping opportunities on the smaller time frame. But say, for example, if you're looking for swing scalp, which is slightly higher time frames, but they're still relatively scalp positions, well, I think there's only two ways to play it. You could long right here in this support towards this area, or at least towards back to this monthly level, okay? Or you could short right here back towards this 10,584 level, or this big level. That's it. Those are the only big scenarios that I see that are worth swing scalping. Okay, there's really nothing else. maybe, you can, if you get a rejection literally right at the 50 moving average, then you start dumping. Maybe that's another one that you'd short. You can long on the top of the 128 moving average. That's another one from 50, or from the 128 back to the 50, or from the 50 back to the 128. I don't know. I guess that's one way to play it too. Okay. But in this area, right, the one thing that I mentioned in this area that we are probably going to chop around, um, I think what's going to happen is, there's going to be decent altcoin plays. Like, for example, we took theta right here. Okay, so we took it from right here. Actually, let me use this one. We took theta as a trade, and we closed out yesterday around, I think, 74, 75. So basically where we are right now. Okay, um, and that was a 20% move, right? And that's visible in one of our advantage channels right here. So all these lock channels that you see, these are for advantage members. Again, if you're interested in joining our community, the link is below, or you could go to our website, thealphatrades.com, hit the products page, buy the Advantage membership, all right? And then you will get access to all these locked channels, or you could just shoot me a message right here. You can also go to the products page, and you can buy our technical analysis course right here, all right? And this has I think 4 or 5 hours worth of how I look at the markets from a technical perspective. And you can buy this technical analysis course. Udemy has special deals sometimes. So sometimes this is, $15, sometimes it's 20, sometimes it's 25, sometimes it's 10, right? So right now I've priced it at 19 bucks, but for $19, what you get is 5 hours of technical analysis work, education, tons of content in there of how I look at markets, what indicators I use, what moving averages I like to utilize, how I look at horizontals, how I utilize Fibonacci levels, how I use everything that I use in my daily basis. And if you get this course, I will give you 7 free days in the Advantage membership, which are, again, all these lock channels. And it's not just crypto that are lock channels. We have the equity side and the options side as well. Okay, so you can go on our website right now, technical analysis course, buy the course, shoot me a message of your proof of purchase, right? And I'll give you 7 days free access. Okay. So going back to what I was talking about, right? In this area of chop, I sort of determined in the market several weeks ago that if the market kind of moves sideways in this area, it might be analogous to what happens back here, which is that there might be big inflows of money, like there was in DeFi back here. I think in this area right here, I think it might be NFTs. Okay, one of the big tokens in NFTs is Theta. Okay, so we've been following Theta and got into Theta way the heck back here, pretty much end of September, and we closed out a nice position just the other day. Okay, I can show you guys proof right here, right? So we closed out the entire Theta position, as you can see, a good 20% profit. One of my technical reasoning was it kind of looks like a lower high double top to me right here. And I don't really want to get caught in this, bind. So I just closed out my position. I said, you know what? I'm just going to wait it out. I don't really know what this price is going to do. It might roll over, in which case I would consider getting back in if it goes down further. And if it goes down further, I'm looking at least maybe this pivot, but maybe this SR level right here, which is around 58, 59 cents, right? That was previous resistance. I would like for that to be turned into support right there. So we'll see if that happens. But Theta is one of my big positions, okay? I'm going to pay attention to that. We already squeezed out 20% out of it for the Advantage members, as you can see. And we're out of that trade, right? So that was a quick, 20% for maybe, 8 to 10 days of holding that trade, and we're out. And now we're just waiting patiently for another trade. So what you get in Advantage membership, folks, if you do want to sign up right here, is you get to understand how we patiently wait for trades in the market, how we look at setups, how we understand the technicals of how things are looking, and numerous other things of the analysis that we do we do 2 videos a day for our Advantage members, 2 videos a day, right? So that's a quite a good amount of content that keeps you busy pretty much every single day. And then of course throughout the day, right? I have numerous, Bitcoin analysis, things that I'm seeing in the market like this right here. Um, Basically, every several hours, every time something important happens in the market, I comment on it. That's just how you want to look at it, right? So, as you can see, I have tons of analysis in here, all for my Advantage members. So, the way I see it is, I think Bitcoin is going to remain in this choppy area. I think that might bode well for altcoins. But the other caveat to that is the way I look at altcoins in some manner is that they are a higher beta, higher risk asset, higher risk than, of course, Bitcoin. So if theta is an asset that is finding support and it's actually moving up nicely. So say, for example, theta starts moving like this on a 4-hour basis, on a daily basis, and then Bitcoin is lagging behind. Well, that tells me that the market itself is a little bit more risk on. And that means Bitcoin may not just dump and sell off spontaneously. It's possible, but it's just, at least over the last several months, it has not been the case. In fact, it's really been the case that when it comes to tokens like Theta or Ethereum or Link or Dot, these are the altcoins that you want to be following, because sometimes they actually give you the leading indication that price might start breaking up in Ethereum, in Link, and then Bitcoin is slow to follow. So what that does is it gives you, a lag to capitalize on, right? So for example, Bitcoin it is stable and not moving, but Ethereum moved up, say 3% or 4% spontaneously. Well, that means, okay, if I missed the Ethereum boat, I might be able to catch the Bitcoin boat. But the other thing that tells us is when Ethereum starts moving up, that means more people, maybe professionals or algos, are actually now in the risk on mode. And if they start moving up, that means that the overall market might be a little bit more risk on, and we may not have to be paranoid about Bitcoin dumping. Again, you know, probability wise, that's just been the case. That's how it's been working over the last several months. Now, of course, I cannot guarantee that just because Ethereum moved up, that Bitcoin cannot spontaneously dump, right? I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying if you're playing the probabilities, well, the probabilities are on your side. That if altcoins are starting to show strength, well, then chances are Bitcoin might too. But here's the thing, right? Over the last several weeks, I've been sort of watching altcoins closely, and what I'm not seeing is I'm not really seeing an overall show of strength from altcoins like Ethereum, like Link. Theta is showing us strength, but again, it kind of stopped, put in that double top that I just showed you earlier. And then same thing with Ethereum, right? Once it put in this high, it put in a low, or rather a lower high and another lower high. And then of course created sort of a double bottom right here. But in any case, the way I'm looking at it is, okay, well, it seems like Ethereum may have bottomed right here as a double bottom, but can it actually start taking out this key high? Because when you have a double bottom, the more important level to look at is what is the first high that you put in after the first bottom. And if you don't take that out from here like that, well, then you haven't really created a confirmed double bottom. What you've really done is you put in a low, a lower high, another equal low, and then another lower high. So in fact, this kind of looks like, maybe a descending triangle being created, right? So you can see how structures can dynamically shift if you don't start seeing, signs of strength, signs of weakness, right out of the gate, right? Or specific levels being taken out. So in any case, what I'm seeing in Ethereum is, as you can see, we're breaking below the weekly pivot that we just opened yesterday. I think we're doing pretty much the same thing in Bitcoin right now. Let's check that out. Yeah, we're below the weekly pivot right here. And typically, the way I see it is, if you start getting above the weekly pivot and holding, well, then I'm kind of looking towards the R1, which is 10,095. But if you're breaking below the weekly pivot, and then I'm looking towards the S1 right here, which is around 10,375, which also happens to be the 128 moving average, right? So lots of clues kind of telling us, it could be a choppy session going into how the stock market is going to open. Um, but, you know, for now, it doesn't look good for Bitcoin. We're under the weekly pivot. Even on the daily standpoint, we're bouncing from the daily pivot right here. But again, we need to get back above that R1, because if you get rejected at the R1 and you don't break through it, well, then it's possible that you start rolling over again. So those are the things I'm paying attention to, folks. Keep an eye on Ethereum, keep an eye on even things like Link. Okay. So even Link, right? I spoke about Link at great length. I think it's still possible that maybe Link, puts a temporary bottom right here, maybe rolls back up here again, and then who knows? Maybe either starts rolling down, or it gets up here, and maybe it just starts blasting through this pivot, which is around 1125. I think if it starts getting through that 1125 pivot, I think things will have shifted, and shifted pretty much on a larger scale, which is they may have shifted for not only Link, but I would say the overall altcoin markets, maybe even Bitcoin will start showing strength if Link can catch its breakout. Like I said earlier, right? I think when you start seeing um, Link or Ethereum or Polkadot or Theta, all these other altcoins start moving together up or down, that gives you a broad market consensus of what's happening. I think the broad market consensus right now is, we're just heading down lower and lower, right? There's really um, not really any signs of strength or clues that are telling us, okay, we're bottom, then from here we should start going up, right? So it's a little bit iffy right now. Let's check out the stock market, right? So the ES, what we see in the ES is, maybe I spoke about this Friday, this could be your potential head and shoulders pattern. Um, Again, the ES has its own new weekly pivot, which is around 33, 38. So keep an eye on this level, right? If we start breaking below that, going into the new, Monday open weekly session, well, that could probably not be a good sign, right? We could probably head back to the S1, which is 3288, close to about 100-point drop or so. So keep an eye on that. DXY, right? DXY, let's see. Looks like DXY had a nice little sell-off overnight. But the interesting thing is DXY sold off, yet equities are slightly selling off, and Bitcoin is slightly rolled over even overnight, right? So I don't know. It's just been really interesting, really choppy. I expect this kind of choppy, volatile, movement going into um, pretty much the end of the month, going into election time, right? So this is why you want to size down in situations like this. Be very careful. But there are trades like I just showed you of Theta, which are sometimes nice trades that you could take, make a nice cool 20% out of it, and then just get out, and then just wait for another good setup. That's all you got to do. Well, anyway, folks, I hope this analysis was helpful. Again, if you want more analysis, pretty much live analysis, 2-a-day videos, all of these channels that you see right here, make sure y'all check it out. Thealphatrades.com, our website. Like I said, technical analysis course, $20 will get you not only the course, which is 4 to 5 hours of how I look at the market, but then of course, all the lock channels that you see right here, right? Equities, crypto, DeFi, altcoins, Bitcoin trading, and then of course our alpha indicator. That's our new indicator that we are utilizing and deploying. I've found it tremendously helpful in my analysis and my trading of the markets. It's 30% off for members for Advantage members. But if you want to get the indicator, you can just buy it right here, the Shepherd indicator, and shoot me a message. And that's it, guys. Cheers.